Our regular visitors will have seen our last video, in which we called on Michael Masi to resign instead of waiting to be sacked. This was because his position as race director is untenable, given that he has clearly demonstrated that he doesn't have what it takes to make decisions under pressure and respect the rules and regulations. We have also made it clear that frontline Sky F1 pundit, Martin Brundle, can no longer represent himself to be an honest commentator who calls races in good faith. He has shown himself to be nothing but a glorified apologist for those who would seek to manipulate the sports for whatever reason. He is a turncoat who routinely turns himself inside out to bend to his master's will. We are therefore not surprised to see him changing his tune in the wake of the latest video of Jonathan Wheatley of Red Bull directing Michael Masi on what to do in Abu Dhabi. Like the naked emperor, Gofer Brundle is so self-absorbed that he doesn't realize that his sycophancy has been laid bare before the public, and his reputation is forever tarnished. It is possible that he is so engrossed in his servility that he does not see the wood for the trees, so for his benefit and for those of our viewers, we have compiled a series of audio and video clips, along with press clippings, detailing his cringing bootlicking. The fact that he has gone from Michael Masi's staunchest supporter to describing his position as untenable is a sign that Gofer and his masters are acutely aware that they have failed in their Orwellian attempt at mind control. What happened in Abu Dhabi was a total disgrace, and a million Brundles cannot change that fact. Gofer Brundle should remember that what goes around comes around. If he is in any doubt about his lack of credibility, he should try reading the comments on his articles or videos. The Brundle montage starts off with his commentary during the race, in which he clearly acknowledges that the rules, regulations and custom provide for all cars to unlap themselves. He then embarks on a disingenuous and disgraceful journey to gaslight Masi's transgressions by bleating on about how unfair it would be to Max, who hadn't done anything wrong, while being silent on Lewis, who had been robbed. He attempts to divert blame away from Masi and onto the radio calls from the teams, and justify Max's championship based on specious statistics that include the stolen victory. Now that he has finally acknowledged wrongdoing on the part of Masi and the FIA, he is characteristically silent on the FIA's validation of what he now acknowledges was the wrong decision. So Gofer's position is never mind that the FIA got it wrong and robbed Lewis of a hard-fought record-breaking 8th title. Let's just forget it and move forward. With respect to the Jonathan Wheatley audio, we will be playing two versions. An independent copy and a Sky Sports copy. Kindly note that the Sky Sports copy has been edited to exclude the message that Red Bull passed to Max, informing him that the lapped cars ahead of him will be released, but not the ones behind him. Critically, this message was given to Max before it was announced by Masi. You can draw your own conclusions as to why Sky F1 chose to exclude it.
From being offline there. Will we get any more racing laps or not? What jeopardy at the end of this Grand Prix, the end of this World Championship. Will there be any more racing laps? If there are, then Verstappen has got the tyres to really do something with them. Will they let the lap runners through?
Well, they always do let the lap runners through, and in between Hamilton and Verstappen, Norris, Alonso, Ocon, Leclerc and Vettel.
Yes, but if they do that, it extends the safety car period.
But that's what they always do, take the lap runners out of the way so they're not interfering in play.
What's the situation, Paolo?
So Ocon, Leclerc and Vettel to overtake it.
And it's ending, wow!
Mike.
So, there's confusion, but the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. So those back markers allowed to overtake the safety car, and that has now left Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen.
Mike, this isn't right.
It has left Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen side by side. Hamilton will be ahead. Verstappen is absolutely desperate to get on with this on that soft compound tyre. We're going to have one lap of racing.
It should be noted that, in the 13th of December video, Brundle, who had during his race commentary noted that either all the lapped cars are allowed to unlap or no cars are allowed to unlap, now falsely represented that several regulations were tripping over themselves and the confusion was such that it would be up to the lawyers to unravel.
And thanks for joining us. Everybody has been talking about this, so 24 hours or so on. What are your thoughts on what happened?
Well, it was an incredible few minutes of sport, wasn't it? With a very grave consequences if you were Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes-Benz, and an amazing experience if you were Max Verstappen and Red Bull. Very complex matter. So it was so exciting to a wonderful finale to a wonderful Grand Prix season. But then, of course, you know, there's a lot of controversy around it and it's all a bit uncomfortable and doesn't shine a particularly good light on Formula One and its processes. But it was a hugely complex and compressed moment in, you know, and several regulations were tripping over themselves. And we ended up with a bit of a hybrid solution there, which is why the lawyers are getting involved and interpretation of wording in the regulations. And of course, you know, the sporting regs are 99 pages and you need to read every single word carefully. It's like a legal document. And the sporting code, which backs everything up, is, you know, that sort of thick. And it's just, it's a minefield. And in the heat of the moment when Michael Masi, the race director, had to consider the safety of marshals, was the car out of the way, he couldn't release the cars until he was, the lapped cars, until he was certain that the track was reasonably clear, although they, of course, have to proceed with caution anyway. And you know what? Even knowing who the lapped cars are is not as straightforward as you might think, because the safety car situation, and some cars pit, and that means they are then lapped, or the leader pits and unlaps some other cars. So it takes a certain amount of time to work out exactly who the lapped runners are, where they are in the pack. But the fundamental point of that rule is to make sure that they don't get in the way of a great duel towards the end of a Grand Prix, and that certainly happened, didn't it?
In the previous clip, Gofer's view of Masi's manipulation in December sits rather oddly with his February assertion that what Masi got particularly wrong was bringing the safety car in 1 lap earlier than he should have. In the next clip, Gofer Brundle does not say when he became aware of the Jonathan Wheatley audio, but is quick to say that it doesn't change the narrative while throwing Masi under the bus. Is this the signal that his boss is getting ready to dump Masi? Et tu, Brute?
We are still talking about what happened at the end of the 2021 season and that decider in the desert and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and the drama of the last few laps and what happened with Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And perhaps it would be inaccurate to say that new footage has emerged. The footage has been there, but a new story has emerged, hasn't it, Craig? Can you tell us more?
This is radio footage, radio traffic between the race director, Michael Masi, or to put it more correctly, radio traffic from Red Bull to the race director, Michael Masi. Principally, what has been made a fuss about in the last couple of days, and you're right, it's not new, it's old. It's been in the public domain on YouTube since the 16th of December, so 4 days after the race, but 1 or 2 news outlets have taken hold of it, and 1 or 2 prominent individuals on social media as well, including Damon Hill. But what I think it seems to show, and we'll have a listen to it, I think, in a moment, is Michael Masi, rather than being race director, it sounds rather as though he is being directed in terms of what to do by the Red Bull pit wall. Perhaps we should have a quick listen to it now, and you can make your own judgment.
Obviously, those lap cars, you don't need to let them go right the way around and catch up with the back of the pack.
Understood.
You need to let them
Understood.
go.
Just give us a second.
And then we've got a motor race on our hands.
Hamilton is heading to an 8th championship of the world here, unless Max Verstappen can do something barely credible, and he's just not going to be able to.
He's got no chance. Obviously, those lap cars, you don't need to let them go right the way around and catch up with the back of the pack.
Understood.
You need to let them
Understood.
go.
Just give us a second.
And then we've got a motor race on our hands.
So we believe they may restart the race like this.
I think all the cars ahead of you are going to pass Hamilton. Everybody behind you will stay in position.
OK, let's get the thoughts then of Martin Brundle on what we just heard there. As Craig has stated, this has been out there since mid-December, but it does sound like Michael Masi is being coerced by Red Bull Racing over team radio. What's your read of that, and how does it in any way change the hue on this particular story about the ending of the 2021 season, Martin?
It's not new news, as Craig pointed out, and also I think you have to understand that it's not necessarily telling Michael Masi something he didn't already know. For example, on a wet day in Spa, you don't let the cars go all the way round and catch the pack up the crocodile, as I call it in commentary. And it's something I would have said on the day, I'm pretty sure, and I've said many times before, you know, it takes too long. It would take too long out of the race if you let them find their way, especially if there's still an incident on the racetrack when you release the lap cars. At Monaco, they might catch the back of the pack or whatever. So let's not assume it's giving Masi information he didn't already know in terms of what he could and couldn't do with the lap pack. Of course, it's really uncomfortable. A lot of people are unhappy, and Hamilton fans, Mercedes fans, and you don't even have to be a Lewis Hamilton fan to think that forever he should be an 8-time world champion, because for me, the really crucial regulation that wasn't carried out is the safety car should have come in at the end of the following lap. But we also know that unwritten rules and meetings, which shouldn't supersede anything, well, let's try not to have a race finishing under the safety car. They're hugely unacceptable. I've met so many fans that were new to Formula One last year, particularly, and fans in general that were hugely upset by what happened. We cannot, and we know that's going to change, we cannot have teams getting at the referee while he's trying to make critical decisions with cars on the track and marshals and breakdown vehicles. The car was on fire at a certain time. He's trying to manage that, and he's getting lobbied left, right, and centre. You can imagine that, can't you, on the football ground or the rugby ground. It's completely unacceptable. That will change. It's not pretty for Formula One at all, but I don't think this particular, it's come out today, it's come out just before the Red Bull launch as well, but I don't think it changes the narrative, the really uncomfortable narrative of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, just to...
I made a comment that changing Michael Masi won't fix the problem, meaning that it's way too big a job for one person, especially in the 23 race season coming up. That doesn't mean to say that's in full support of Michael Masi. I think he'll struggle to keep that position. The trouble is the spotlight will be on him. Every single decision will be analysed. And what happens if Lewis is up for a penalty? Will he be lenient on that? I think he's in an untenable situation. Whether he's part of a much bigger and broader system going forward, that's what I'm expecting to hear next week from the FIA, that they're going to have a root and branch change and to make sure that, you know, this can't happen again. They're hugely complex regulations. It's a fast-moving sport, different circuits, different layouts. It's 100 pages of sporting regulations, 100-odd pages of the sporting code, all sorts of technical directives and other agreements in place. You know, we ended up on version 13 of the sporting regulations last year. This year's ones are not really out properly yet. It's completely unacceptable for the fans, for us in the media, not really knowing what's going on with all these sub-meetings. So it needs clarity. It needs a much broader system to control what is a hugely complex and variable thing. Should he have thrown a red flag as soon as the car crashed? Yes, it would have been better than we'd had a fair fight at the end of the Grand Prix. But does that mean then every time you get towards the end of a Grand Prix, if there's an incident, you must throw a red flag? That's an uncomfortable precedent to put in place. So it's not straightforward. I know an awful lot of things that were going on around and about it, and it is super uncomfortable for Formula One. But, you know, you can't unravel the result. Red Bull did nothing wrong. Ferrari did nothing wrong in third place, for example. You can't penalise them because they did nothing wrong. The FIA can only penalise themselves. They got it wrong on the day. Michael Masi got it wrong due to, I think, a lot of circumstances. But it doesn't mean you can't unravel the race from that point when the organiser got it wrong themselves.